What would you do if someone asked, "Are you prepared for your son's success?" Not out of admiration, but pure condescension. When a billionaire family insults a black mother at $1 million dinner table, her son, a powerful CEO, has to choose: close a $500 million deal, or defend her dignity. But at what cost? This isn't just a story about business, it's about legacy, pride, and refusing to be owned. Watch how one decision ignites a battle no one saw coming. Will he sell his soul for their money, or burn their gatekeeping to the ground? Find out in this gripping story. Dear viewer, if you are watching my story for the first time, I humbly request you write the location from where you are watching right now, subscribe this channel and press the bell icon now not to miss the notifications of my daily published new stories. Thank you, and let's dive into the full story. Marian Ellis stood in the middle of her modest kitchen in Chicago's South Side, wiping her hands on a worn dish towel. She was 66, with short, natural gray hair, warm brown skin, and a quiet dignity she carried everywhere she went. Her son, Andre Ellis, was a 42-year-old powerhouse CEO, the kind of black man who'd forced his way through boardrooms that were never built for him, but today he seemed uncharacteristically tense. Andre had come to visit before an important meeting downtown, but their talk wasn't casual like usual. Instead, he kept glancing at his Rolex and tapping his phone on the table. Marian noticed everything. She sat down opposite him, placing her weathered hands on the table. Andre cleared his throat. "Ma, listen. I want you to come to this dinner tonight." "Dinner?" She raised an eyebrow. "Where?" "At the Fairmont Penthouse Ballroom. The Whitmores are hosting it. We're finalizing a $500 million merger. I want you there." Marian squinted. "Why do you need me at some billionaire party?" Andre paused. He hadn't meant to say it out loud, but it slipped: "Because they want to see where I come from. They asked to meet my mother." Marian sat back. "Meet me like I'm an exhibit?" He winced. "They'll pretend to be nice. They're old money, they love the photo op look. You don't have to if you don't want to. But it would help me. Just, be you. Be gracious. Please." Marian felt the insult on her tongue, but she swallowed it. Her son needed her. She agreed quietly. Later that night, she pulled out her best church suit, a blue one with neat lapels, and polished her low heels. Andre picked her up in his black S-Class, saying little on the ride. As they approached the gleaming tower of the Fairmont Hotel, Marian felt small. She hated that feeling. The lobby was marble, filled with glittering chandeliers and carefully curated flower arrangements that cost more than her whole month's pension. Andre led her upstairs to the private ballroom. A white-gloved server handed them champagne. Marian declined. The room was already full. She felt eyes on her the moment she stepped in. At the center of the room was the Whitmore family. Charlotte Whitmore, 51, was tall with an angular face that never quite smiled. Beside her was her sister Vivian, 46, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Their friend Lindsay, 43, blonde, wore a white designer gown that deliberately signaled casual superiority. Andre greeted them all with a firm handshake, flashing his teeth in a businesslike grin. "This is my mother, Marian Ellis," he said. Charlotte gave Marian a once-over that could chill boiling water. She didn't offer her hand immediately. Instead, she sniffed as if she'd smelled something. Then, smiling thinly, she said, "Mrs. Ellis." "How quaint." Marian blinked. "Evening." Vivian stepped closer, inspecting her. "Lovely to meet you. You live in Chicago? What part?" "South Side." "Oh." Vivian's mouth pinched. "I hear it's lively. Colorful." Lindsay laughed. "Authentic," she added, as if describing a hole-in-the-wall taco joint. Andre's face tightened. He tried to smooth it over. "Ma's been in the neighborhood her whole life. She's the reason I am who I am." Lindsay sipped her wine. That's adorable. A real success story. Pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. You must be very proud of your son, Mrs. Ellis. Marion stared at her. Yes. I am. Charlotte finally offered her hand. Marion shook it carefully. Charlotte's grip was limp, dismissive. She turned to Andre. Shall we discuss the merger over dinner? Your mother can join. There's a table for our special guests. The word special dripped poison. Marion heard it. Andre clenched his jaw. But he needed this deal. He nodded stiffly. They sat at a long white linen table. Servers whisked out tiny dishes on fine china. Marion felt her stomach twist. She wasn't stupid. She'd been insulted before, but rarely this politely. Charlotte led the conversation like a queen hosting peasants. She asked Marion questions about Andre's childhood in that brittle, anthropological way. Did you ever imagine your son would, own a company? Marion answered every question, voice steady but cool. Andre noticed. His mother was holding it in for him. The others barely hid their amusement. Charlotte smirked at Vivian. It's good to see the American dream still alive, she drawled. Lindsay laughed. Andre forced a laugh too. He felt like dying. The meal dragged on. By dessert, they were talking numbers. Marion tried to fade into the background. But Charlotte wouldn't let her. Mrs. Ellis, if this merger goes through, your son will be quite wealthy. Are you prepared for that? Marion's lips tightened. He's already wealthy. But real money, Charlotte corrected. Generational wealth. Enough that, well, you might move out of the South Side. Andre coughed sharply. Charlotte. What? I'm being practical. Marion pushed back from the table, slowly and deliberately. Excuse me. I need a moment. She stood and walked away, head high. Andre watched his mother go. For the first time in years, he felt shame that wasn't his. He didn't even hear Charlotte's next question. His eyes stayed on the ballroom doors, where Marion had disappeared. He knew this dinner was a mistake. Marion Ellis stepped into the hallway outside the ballroom, heart pounding. She braced a palm on the wall, taking slow, deliberate breaths. The carpet was too plush under her feet. The lights are too bright. She wasn't supposed to be here, and everyone knew it. She swallowed that truth like medicine, bitter but necessary. She wouldn't give those women the satisfaction of seeing her break. Inside, the party continued. She could hear laughter, the clink of glasses, and the tinkle of a piano. She looked at her reflection in a gilded mirror, the sensible church suit, the short gray hair, the lines on her face that told a story of sacrifice. A staff member in a white jacket approached. Ma'am, are you all right? She straightened. I'm fine, thank you. But she wasn't. Meanwhile, in the ballroom, Andre was trying to hold it together. He felt trapped in conversation with Charlotte, Vivian, and Lindsay, who now turned their attention to the deal. Charlotte lowered her voice. Andre, let's talk terms. I've spoken to the board. We're willing to finalize at $500 million, but we want assurances on your leadership team. He blinked. My team? Vivian sipped her drink. Let's be honest. Your COO is competent, but there are style issues. And we want to see certain people replaced. You understand. Andre felt the heat rise in his neck. Style issues? Lindsay smiled thinly. Cultural fit. Your team is very urban. He set his glass down carefully, fingers trembling. Charlotte leaned in. It's not personal, Andre. You're impressive. That's why we're giving you this chance. But your mother's presence tonight? It was instructive. Andre's head snapped up. What do you mean? Vivian pretended innocence. Well, let's say it showed us you're humble. That you know your place. That you're grateful for opportunities. He felt the room tilt. He didn't respond. Charlotte kept going. We do want this partnership. But we'll need to know that you can be guided. That you're flexible. That you're not too invested in the old neighborhood or certain legacies. Andre blinked hard. Charlotte smiled wider. We can help you transcend all that. Vivian and Lindsay laughed. That's when Marion walked back in. She didn't look at Andre at first. She went straight to the table and stood there, tall and unbending, while the whole table fell silent. Mrs. Ellis, Charlotte drawled. Are you feeling better? Marion didn't answer right away. She looked at her son. Andre saw the disappointment in her eyes and wanted to crawl under the table. Marion's voice was quiet, but it carried. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. Charlotte clucked her tongue. Excellent. We were just talking about how remarkable Andre is. Truly remarkable. You must be so proud. Vivian added, to raise a man who can sit at this table. It's extraordinary. Marion's eyes narrowed just a touch. Sit at this table. Lindsay said it out loud, unable to resist, given where he came from. The words fell like a slap. Andre's hand curled into a fist. Marion didn't flinch. She looked at Lindsay, then Charlotte, then Vivian in turn. You want to know where he came from? Charlotte blinked. Marion leaned forward, voice icy. He came from my working 2 jobs. Me taking the bus at 5 in the morning. Me telling him he was better than anyone who told him, no, he came from nights I didn't eat so he could. That's where he came from. And you're right, I'm proud. I'm so proud I can barely breathe sometimes. Silence. Charlotte sniffed. Touching. But let's not make this personal. We're talking business. Marion didn't move. Oh, it's personal. You made it personal the moment you asked me if I was prepared for my son's success. The moment you tried to dress up your insults in polite words. I heard you. Vivian cleared her throat. Andre, are you going to control your mother? Andre snapped. Don't talk about her like she's my employee. Lindsay raised an eyebrow. We're just trying to have an adult conversation. Marion drew herself up. Then act like adults. Andre felt the room hold its breath. He realized he was shaking. Charlotte exhaled, exasperated. You're misunderstanding us. We simply want to know that Andre can adapt to our world. That he understands what's expected. Marion smiled coldly. Expected? You expect him to bow. To thank you for the crumbs. To forget where he came from because it makes you uncomfortable. Charlotte's mouth twisted. That's enough. Marion's voice was low and calm. You're right. It is. She turned and walked away. Andre's chair scraped back. He followed her, leaving the 3 women gaping in outrage. At the ballroom doors, he caught up. Ma, he said, voice cracking. I'm sorry. She didn't stop. You should be. He grabbed her arm gently. Don't go yet. Please. She turned. Tears stood in her eyes, but they didn't fall. Why did you bring me here? Why did you let them talk to me like that? Andre felt every inch of his expensive suit turn to lead. Because I needed the deal. Marion shook her head. At what cost, Andre? At what cost? He had no answer. They left the Fairmont in silence. Andre's driver opened the door of the sleek black Mercedes, but Marion hesitated before getting in. She gave the Grand Hotel one last withering look, then settled herself stiffly in the back seat. Andre climbed in beside her, pulling the door shut a little too hard. He tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. His mother turned away, watching the streetlights blur past her window. He finally managed, voice raw, I didn't know they'd be like that. She didn't look at him. You did. He winced. He had known. Not the exact words, but the attitude. Of course. He'd been dealing with it his whole career. Usually, he could absorb it, let it roll off his back. But he'd brought his mother here thinking he could, what? Dress her up. Hide the truth of where they came from behind polite smiles. Andre's phone buzzed. It was a message from Charlotte. Charlotte, we need to discuss what happened tonight. Call me in the morning. He didn't reply. The car pulled up to Marion's modest bungalow on the south side. Andre got out first, offering his hand to help her. She ignored it, climbing out slowly, knees stiff. They stood on the walkway in silence. He tried again. Ma, please. Don't be mad. She turned on him, eyes blazing. Mad? You think I'm mad? He flinched. I'm ashamed, Andre. Ashamed for you. You sat there and let them talk to me like I was less than nothing. And for what? Money you already have? He shook his head desperately. It's not about money. It's about legacy. Generational wealth. She snorted. Generational dignity would be nice, too. He fell silent. She softened a fraction. Andre. I didn't raise you to need their approval. He swallowed hard. I know. Do you? Because it sure looked like you did tonight. He felt sick. I thought I could, make them see me. See us. She sighed. They saw exactly what they wanted. That's the problem. Andre looked away, eyes glistening. She patted his arm. You're better than them. Don't forget it. He nodded stiffly. Good night, Andre. Good night, Ma. She went inside without looking back. He stood on the walk for a long time, the Chicago wind biting his face. He finally got back in the car. Where to, sir? The driver asked. Andre didn't answer for a long moment. Then he said, voice flat, home. He spent the night pacing his penthouse apartment. He tried to work, but his mind kept replaying the dinner. Charlotte's smirk. Vivian's questions. Lindsay's laughter. His mother's steady voice as she refused to be humiliated quietly. He remembered the deal. $500 million. A merger that would take his company to the stratosphere. But at what cost? His phone buzzed again. More messages from Charlotte. From his board. They wanted assurances. They wanted him to smooth it over. They wanted him to apologize for the scene. He laughed bitterly. He finally sat at his desk, cracked open his laptop, and pulled up the deal memo. He stared at it for a long time. He didn't delete it. Not yet. But he didn't sign it either. The next morning, Andre showed up at his mother's house unannounced. She opened the door in her bathrobe, hair wrapped in a scarf, eyes wary. Andre. Can I come in? She hesitated, then stepped aside. He sat at her small kitchen table while she poured coffee. Neither spoke while she stirred in sugar and powdered cream. Finally, she set the mug in front of him and sat down. He didn't touch it. Ma. She waited. I'm sorry. For real this time. She watched him carefully. He exhaled. You were right. About all of it. I was willing to let them treat you like you were nothing. Because I wanted the deal. Because I wanted them to see me as one of them. She didn't interrupt. He swallowed. That ends today. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. He nodded, determination solidifying in his gut. I'm calling them. I'm telling them the deal's off. She blinked. He went on, voice rising. I'm not going to sit in another room with people who think they're doing me a favor by letting me in. Who thinks they can talk about you like you're dirt? Who thinks they own me if they give me their money? Now she was staring at him like she didn't quite recognize him. He felt something shift in his chest. Pride. Anger. Clarity. I don't need them that bad, he finished. For the first time, Marion smiled. A real smile. You sure? She asked softly. He nodded. Good, she said. She lifted her mug and took a sip. Now drink your coffee before it gets cold. Andre Ellis sat in his corner office on the 48th floor, watching the Chicago skyline blur behind floor-to-ceiling glass. His company, Ellis Strategic Partners, had grown from a two-person consultancy in a rented studio to a 100-person powerhouse with clients on 5 continents. This was his kingdom, built with sweat, stubbornness, and brilliance. But today it felt like enemy territory. He was in early, suit perfectly tailored, laptop open in front of him. He read the deal memo one more time, eyes scanning the terms he knew by heart. $500 million. New international markets. An acquisition that would make him one of the most powerful black CEOs in the country. He closed the document. Deleted it. His heart thundered. There was a knock. His assistant, Tamika, a sharp, no-nonsense black woman in her 30s, poked her head in. They're all here. Andre exhaled. Thanks. Send them in. His executive team filed in, Javier from operations, Tasha from marketing, James from legal, and Kelly, his white CFO who'd fought hard for him over the years. They knew something was up the second they saw his face. James spoke first. Boss. This is about the Whitmore deal. Andre nodded. Tasha crossed her arms. You look like you're about to give us bad news. Andre held up a hand. First, I want you all to know, this company doesn't exist without you. I picked you because you're the best, not because you fit someone's idea of acceptable. They shifted, exchanging wary glances. Andre continued. Last night, at the dinner with the Whitmores, things got ugly. They showed me who they are. Who do they expect me to be? Who do they think all of us are? Kelly frowned. Andre, are you saying the deal's dead? Andre met her eyes. I'm saying I'm killing it. Silence. Javier whistled low. $500 million, man. Andre nodded. Yeah. $500 million from people who insult my mother to her face. Who wants me to fire half this team for not being culturally aligned? Who sees us as a feel-good PR story they can own? James sighed. That's the price of doing business with them. Andre's jaw tightened. Not my business. Not anymore. Tasha watched him carefully. You sure about this? Andre nodded slowly. I am. And if anyone here can't get behind that, tell me now. I'll understand. Silence stretched. Finally, Tasha smirked. Andre, I hated them before you did. Javier nodded. We'll figure it out. Kelly let out a slow breath. Well. I guess we're going to need new investors. Andre smiled, tension easing just a bit. That we will. They spent the next hour tearing apart the Whitmore plan, listing every contact they could target for alternative financing. It felt like war room planning. Urgent. Fierce. Free. When the meeting ended, Andre was still riding high. Until his phone buzzed again. Charlotte Whitmore. He didn't want to answer. But he did. Charlotte. Her voice was syrupy. Andre. Darling. We need to talk. He cut her off. We do. The deal's off. A pause. Don't be rash, she said, voice tightening. I'm not. I'm clear. She tried again. Your board won't like it. Andre laughed. My board works for me. And they just agreed to it. Her voice dropped all pretense. You're making a mistake. Don't think you can survive without us. You think you're too good for our money? Andre's voice was cold as ice. I know I am. She hissed. You'll regret this. He smiled. I can live with that. He hung up. He sat back in his chair, hands shaking. It wasn't over. He knew she wouldn't let it go. Rich people rarely did. But he also knew he'd never felt so sure of anything in his life. He stood and looked out the window at the city. His city. His mother's city. They'd built it, too. And they weren't leaving. 2 days later, Andre's office was buzzing with the energy of damage control. Rumors spread fast in Chicago business circles, and the Whitmores had friends in all the right places. It started with emails from partners who suddenly needed to reevaluate their contracts. Then calls from bankers got curt. A joint project with a local developer paused for review. Andre's phone wouldn't stop ringing, but none of the voices on the other end wanted to help. They all wanted to distance themselves from what they now framed as a volatile CEO who had torpedoed a golden merger. In the middle of it all, his CFO, Kelly, knocked and entered without waiting for a response. She tossed a stack of printouts on his desk. Andre didn't need to ask. Kelly's jaw was tight. They're putting it out there that you were unprofessional at the dinner. That you caused a scene. They're suggesting your mother insulted them. Andre picked up one sheet. An email chain between local investors, using words like unreliable, emotional, and difficult. He crushed it in his fist. Kelly didn't flinch. Andre. It's going to get worse. They're making you radioactive. He looked at her, eyes burning. Because I told them to go to hell for insulting my mother? She didn't blink. Yes. He slumped back in his chair. Kelly softened. Listen. I'm here. Tasha, Javier, the team, they're not going anywhere. But you need to know what we're up against. He nodded slowly. Kelly let out a breath. What do you want to do? Andre's mind raced. He'd built Ella's strategic partners with sweat and hustle. He'd done every job at one point. He knew they had value. But those old money circles controlled the big doors. Without them, scaling would be 10 times harder. He wasn't sure he even cared anymore. But he cared about his people. He stood. Call a full staff meeting. Kelly blinked. All hands. Everyone. Conference room in 20 minutes later, the entire staff crowded the glass-walled conference room. Some looked scared. Others defiant. A few were openly angry. Andre stood at the head of the table. He didn't hide his exhaustion. Or his fury. You all know what happened, he said quietly. You know why I killed the Whitmore deal. You've seen the fallout. Murmurs. He nodded. Good. Let's put it all on the table. They're trying to bury us. They're blackballing us from suppliers, partners, and investors. They want me to crawl back and apologize. He paused. I'm not going to. Silence. Andre's voice rose. I'm not going to because if I do, I'm telling them they're right. That they can talk about my mother like that. That they can tell me to fire people who look like me. Who looks like you. That they own us if they give us money. Tasha lifted her chin. Tell it. He nodded at her. Andre turned, eyes scanning the room. If you want to leave now, I won't stop you. It's going to be hard. Some of you will get better offers. Safer offers. But I'm not selling out this company or anyone in it. Javier raised a hand. You think we can survive without them? Andre didn't hesitate. Yes. Kelly's voice was hoarse. How? He looked at her. By being better. By being so good, they can't ignore us, no matter what they say. By going to clients who don't care about old money gatekeepers. By making our doors. The room was dead silent. Then Tasha spoke. They didn't make us. They can't break us. Andre felt something rise in his chest. Pride. He nodded slowly. Anyone else? A programmer in the back mumbled, screw them. Laughter broke out. Andre finally let himself smile. He spread his hands. Okay then. Let's get to work. But even as the mood lifted, Andre knew the war was only beginning. That night, alone in his office, he got another call. Unknown number. He answered without thinking. Mr. Ellis. Charlotte's voice, smooth as oil. He didn't respond. She continued. I heard about your little staff meeting. Very inspiring. He didn't speak. Charlotte clicked her tongue. I want you to know something, Andre. This isn't personal. It's just business. But you're making it very hard to forgive you. He smiled coldly. Good. She paused. You could still come back, she said softly. We're very forgiving people, Andre. We can make this go away. Sign the deal. Apologize. We'll forget your mother's performance. He nearly crushed the phone. Go to hell, he said calmly. He hung up before she could answer. He set the phone down carefully, breathing hard. He wasn't going to win this clean. He knew that now. But he'd rather burn it all down than sell them 1 inch of his soul. By the next week, the war had gone public. Andre woke up to headlines in Chicago's business press that made his stomach clench. Ellis strategic in turmoil after failed merger, Whitmore sources cite, erratic CEO behavior, and emotional outburst ruins $500 million deal. Every story quoted anonymous sources close to the negotiations. They all described Andre as unprofessional, volatile, and unable to play by established norms. None mentioned his mother. None mentioned the insults. Andre stared at the screen, knuckles white. He didn't even want to know what the comments said. When he got to the office, the atmosphere was funereal. Tasha was on the phone arguing with a supplier who suddenly needed new terms. Javier was reading an email with a pained look. Kelly was pacing with her laptop open, trying to reassure investors who were now skittish. The Whitmores hadn't just closed doors, they were making sure Ellis Strategic was marked. Andre gathered the leadership team again. He slammed the newspaper on the table. Read it. They didn't want to. But they did. Kelly closed her eyes. This is bad. Tasha shook her head slowly. They want you to beg. Andre didn't sit. He paced like a caged lion. They're going to try to choke us out. They're not satisfied with me saying no. They want me ruined as an example. Silence. Javier spoke carefully. Andre. They've got media contacts. Bankers. Investors. They can do this. We might not survive. Andre stopped pacing. He looked at every one of them. You want to quit? Nobody answered. He lowered his voice. If you want to leave, leave. I'm not judging. But I'm not quitting. I didn't build this for them. I built it for us. Kelly spoke next, voice cracking. They'll try to make our clients walk. Andre nodded. Then we talk to every client one by one. We tell them the truth. We don't lie. We don't spin. We tell them who we are. Tasha snorted. What if they don't care? What if they want the old money connections more than us? Andre shrugged. Then they weren't our clients to begin with. Silence. Then Tasha smirked. I'll start making calls. Javier sighed, but he nodded. Me too. Kelly snapped her laptop shut. They want to fight. Fine. Let's fight. The next few days were brutal. Andre spent 10 hours a day calling clients, explaining the truth of what happened. He refused to sugarcoat it. He told them exactly what the Whitmores had said about his mother. About his team. Some clients wavered. A few quietly said they'd be pausing future work. But not all. One black-owned bank told him flat out, "You're not going anywhere. We'll cover any gap you need." A scrappy logistics company on the west side signed a bigger contract than before. A family-run tech firm said, "We heard the rumors. Glad you told us the truth." They lost a lot. But they didn't lose everything. One night, Andre sat in his car outside his mother's house. He couldn't bring himself to go in yet. He finally did, knocking softly. She opened the door wearing her robe and slippers. He just looked at her. "Come in," she said gently. He sat at her kitchen table, head in his hands. She poured him coffee, the way she always did. "They're trying to kill us," he said hoarsely. "They want to ruin me, Ma." She sipped her coffee. "I know. I might lose the company." She didn't flinch. "You might." He looked up sharply. She met his eyes without pity. "And you'll survive it. Because you'll know you didn't sell yourself. You'll know you didn't let them own you. That's worth something." He swallowed hard. She reached across the table, laying her warm, strong hand on his. "Andre. I don't care if you're a billionaire or broke. I care that you remember who you are." He couldn't speak. She squeezed his hand. "You're my son. That's enough." He nodded, eyes wet. She smiled faintly. "Now drink your coffee before it gets cold." Andre woke before dawn. He hadn't slept. He lay in bed replaying every meeting, every insult, every phone call from a client nervously backing away. But he also remembered the clients who stayed. The calls that ended with, "We believe in you." He realized something in the quiet hours before sunrise: he wasn't going to win this by playing defense forever. The Whitmores controlled the traditional networks, the banks, the big real estate developers, the investors who valued bloodlines over skill. Andre couldn't beat them at that game. But he didn't have to. He needed his network. He needed his people. At 7 a.m. sharp, he was at the office, pacing in the main bullpen while his exhausted staff arrived one by one. Tasha blinked at him, clutching her coffee. "You slept here last night?" "Barely," he admitted. She sipped. "You look like hell." "Thanks." Everyone in the conference room in 10. They sat around the long glass table, bleary-eyed but listening. Andre stood at the head. "We're not going to let them define us," he began. Silence. He continued. "They think they own this city. They think they can pick who succeeds. That they can buy us, insult us, then destroy us if we say no." He let that hang. "Here's what we're going to do instead. We're going to show everyone exactly who they are, and exactly who we are." Kelly frowned. "How?" Andre grinned humorlessly. "By telling the truth. Everywhere." James raised an eyebrow. "You want us to leak the dinner conversation?" Andre nodded slowly. "Not in some tabloid. Not anonymously. I'm going to do it myself. On camera." Kelly sucked in a breath. "Andre, that's risky." He met her eyes. "So is rolling over. So is dying quietly." Javier whistled. "You're going to start a war." Andre's voice was cold steel. "They already did." Tasha leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "I'm in." Kelly exhaled. "Hell. Let's do it right." Within hours, they had a plan. Andre sat in front of a camera, no script, no teleprompter. Just him in a black suit, eyes raw but fierce. He didn't raise his voice. He told the story of the dinner. They had asked to meet his mother, how they had insulted where she lived. How they'd asked if she was prepared for him to be truly rich. How they demanded he fire his staff for being too urban. He didn't exaggerate. He didn't curse. He let the insults speak for themselves. Then he looked straight into the lens. I said no. I killed the deal. Because my mother is worth more than $500 million. Because my team deserves better than that. Because I don't want their money if it comes with my dignity in chains. He paused. This is who we are at Ellis Strategic. We tell the truth. We work for people who respect us. If that's not you, don't call. But if it is, our line is open. He ended with the company's logo and contact info. They posted it everywhere. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, their website. Within hours, it was shared hundreds of times. Then thousands. Then tens of thousands. The backlash came instantly. Some commenters sneered. Said he was playing the victim. That he was proving he wasn't professional. Others roared in support. Black business groups amplified it. Local activists shared it. Major journalists started reaching out. He did interviews. Calm. Direct. Unapologetic. He refused to name Charlotte Whitmore directly. He didn't have to. Everyone in the industry knew exactly who he meant. He didn't threaten lawsuits. He didn't beg forgiveness. He just told the truth. Clients who had been on the fence called to say they respected it. New clients reached out. One large minority-owned private equity firm in Atlanta offered to talk about backing them. Andre sat in his office at 10 p.m. one night watching the latest share count on their video, over 200,000 views in 3 days. He closed his eyes. He could hear his mother's voice in his head. You remember who you are. He smiled. He was remembering. The video didn't just spread in Chicago. It made national news. Business shows invited Andre to speak. He turned most of them down, picking only the ones where he could talk without being talked over. He knew the Whitmores were watching every second. And it was working. Ellis Strategic didn't magically replace the $500 million deal. But the company's pipeline stabilized. Old partners who'd ghosted them began cautiously reaching out. New leads from black-owned companies and firms that had always felt shut out of the old money circle started to appear. Andre watched his staff start to hope again. But then Charlotte made her move. He was in the office when Tamika buzzed his intercom. Mr. Ellis. She's here. Andre blinked. Who? Charlotte Whitmore. She's in reception. She says she won't leave without speaking to you. He exhaled. Send her in. He stood when she entered, out of sheer habit. She was perfectly put together in a cream suit, hair in a smooth twist, diamonds at her ears. She didn't smile. Charlotte. Andre. They regarded each other. She didn't sit until he gestured to the chair across from his desk. She adjusted her skirt and crossed her legs elegantly. I didn't come to trade insults, she said briskly. Andre didn't answer. She set her bag down carefully. Your little video made quite a splash. Andre lifted an eyebrow. You watched it? She smirked. Of course. It was very compelling. Almost had me convinced you were the victim. He didn't respond. She continued. But here's the thing, Andre. You're good at telling a story. But that's all it is. A story. You and I both know this industry is built on relationships. Access. Trust. And you've broken that. Andre's jaw tightened. Charlotte leaned forward slightly. I'm here to offer you a way back. He snorted. Really? She nodded smoothly. We can make this go away. We can repair the narrative. We can say it was all a misunderstanding. You had a moment of personal emotion. Your mother was overwhelmed. You're a good son, but you're also a professional. You know how to apologize. Publicly. Andre stared at her. She went on. We'll move forward with the deal. A little less favorable to you, of course. There will be changes in your team. But you'll keep your company. Your position. Your wealth. You'll get to be in the room. Andre felt his pulse thunder. She tilted her head. Or, you can keep playing martyr. And watch your little empire bleed to death. Because I promise you, Andre, I'm not bluffing. I can make sure you don't get a single major contract in this city. Ever. Silence. He watched her. Finally, he said softly, You done? Her eyes flashed. This is your last chance. Andre nodded slowly. He stood up. She blinked, thrown off. He walked around the desk and leaned against it, arms crossed. I want you to listen carefully, Charlotte. She bristled. He spoke quietly, every word like a knife. I don't want to be in your room. I don't want your deal. I don't want your money. And if it means losing everything I built, so be it. I will never crawl for you. She opened her mouth. He didn't let her. You sat across from my mother and treated her like trash. And you thought I'd be so desperate for your check I'd let it slide. He shook his head slowly. You don't know me at all. Charlotte's face was flushed. You're making a mistake. Andre smiled thinly. I can live with that. She stood abruptly. You think you're better than me? He didn't flinch. Today? Yeah. I do. She grabbed her purse. Don't say I didn't warn you, she snapped. Andre's eyes were cold. Get out of my office. She turned on her heel and stalked out, heels clicking like gunshots on the polished floor. Andre didn't move. Tamika stuck her head in after a moment. Boss? He didn't turn. Yeah. She's gone. Andre exhaled shakily. Yeah. Tamika nodded once. Good. She shut the door. Andre slumped into his chair, shaking. He felt rage. Relief. Fear. And something else. Freedom. The fallout from Charlotte's visit was immediate and vicious. Within days, Ellis Strategic lost 3 major clients, all of whom claimed timing issues and budget concerns but wouldn't look Andre in the eye during the cancellation calls. A 4th sent a cold email about no longer being aligned on brand values. His team felt it. Morale dropped. The office was quieter than usual, the buzz of calls and brainstorming sessions replaced by hushed meetings in corners. But they didn't leave. Andre noticed that. Even as he walked the floor late one evening, he saw the lights on over Tasha's messy desk and Javier's whiteboard covered in fresh plans. Kelly was still at her laptop, sending yet another investor deck. Andre paused in the doorway. Kelly didn't look up. We're going to get some of them back. Don't worry. He smiled faintly. I know. She finally met his gaze. Her eyes were tired but sharp. You think they're done? Andre shook his head. Not even close. They're going to keep at it. Spread rumors. Block deals. Kelly snorted. Charming people. Andre leaned against the frame. They're scared. That's why they're trying so hard. She quirked an eyebrow. He pushed off the door. They're scared because we told the truth. And they know if enough people hear it, they lose control. Kelly tapped a pen against her lip, thoughtful. You want to go louder? He nodded. She smiled. I'm in. The next week was a flurry of meetings. Andre sat down with Tasha and Javier to design a new marketing plan, one that had nothing to do with begging old investors for approval. Instead, they aimed directly at the companies that felt shut out of the good old boys club. Black-owned firms. Women-owned businesses. Startups in need of strategy but tired of condescending consultants. They went local. Regional. National. Andre got on video calls with skeptical founders and told them straight, "We're not the cheap option. We're the best option. We'll treat you with respect. And we'll fight for you the same way we're fighting for ourselves." Some said no. But enough said, yes. Small contracts at first. Then the bigger ones. The office felt alive again. But the Whitmores weren't done. One morning, Andre walked in to find the local business journal had run a front-page story sourced from confidential industry insiders about Ella's strategics, decline, and mounting debt. It was a hit piece, pure and simple. Andre read it twice. He didn't even bother getting angry. He called a meeting instead. Everyone filed in, muttering. Kelly looked like she wanted to set something on fire. Andre waited until the room was quiet. He held up the paper. "You all see this?" A chorus of bitter yes. Andre smiled. "Good. Free advertising." Silence. He dropped the paper on the table. "They're scared enough to write this. Means we're getting somewhere." Kelly snorted. "That's one way to spin it." Andre's voice dropped. "We're not going to fight them by playing nice. But we're not going to lie either. We're going to keep telling the truth. Loudly. Clearly. To anyone who will listen." Tasha spoke up. "You think people want to hear the truth?" Andre looked at her steadily. "The ones we want to work with do." She nodded slowly. Javier leaned back. "Then let's make sure they hear it." They spent the next 3 hours drafting a company-wide statement, explaining the canceled deal, the lost contracts, and the rumors. They named no names but left no doubt. Andre insisted on signing it himself. They posted it on the company site. Sent it to every client, every lead. It was raw. Honest. Angry in places. But real. It went viral in their industry circles. Some investors called to say they respected the honesty. A few said they'd pass for now. But doors weren't slamming shut. Some were opening. Late that night, Andre sat alone in his office. He let himself breathe. He thought of his mother, sitting at her kitchen table, sipping coffee like she was royalty, even in that tiny bungalow. He realized he'd stopped feeling ashamed of where he came from. He picked up his phone and dialed her. She answered on the second ring. "Hi, Ma." Her voice was sleepy. "Andre. Everything okay?" He swallowed hard. "Yeah. Just wanted to say goodnight." She was quiet for a moment. "Good night, son. I'm proud of you." He closed his eyes, letting that sink in like a benediction. "Thanks, Ma." He hung up and finally allowed himself a smile. It wasn't over. But they were still here. And they weren't going anywhere. 2 months later, Ella's strategic partners was still standing. Bruised, battered, but standing. Andre walked the office floor slowly, hands in his pockets. The space looked different now. They'd cut costs to survive, gone were the fancy flower arrangements in reception and the pricey catering. But the energy was back. Tasha was pitching a new client on Zoom with her usual blend of humor and ruthlessness. Javier was mapping out an operations strategy on a whiteboard covered in colorful scribbles. Kelly was on a call with a new minority-owned investment group, discussing terms she was determined would not screw them over. They were working. They were fighting. They were choosing who they wanted to be. Andre felt something in his chest unclench for the first time in weeks. One afternoon, he invited his whole leadership team into the small conference room. No laptops. No presentations. Just them. They exchanged wary glances before sitting. Andre stayed standing at the head of the table. He rested his palms on the glass. "Look," he began. "I need to say this. Out loud." Silence. He swallowed. "When this started, I thought success meant being let in. Getting their approval. Signing their deals. Being the black face they could point to and say, 'Look how inclusive we are.'" Kelly didn't look away. Andre's voice cracked just slightly. "I thought if I had enough money, enough connections, I could protect us all from the shit they throw at us." No one spoke. He let out a long breath. "But that's not what this company is for. That's not what we are for." Tasha tilted her head, listening. Andre straightened. "We're not going to apologize for who we are. Or where we came from. We're not going to beg them to respect us. We're going to demand it. And if they can't, we'll find people who can." Javier tapped his pen on the table. "And if they try to kill us again?" Andre smiled grimly. "Then they better be ready for a fight." Kelly let out a long, ragged breath. "You sure about this, boss?" He nodded. "I've never been more sure of anything." Silence. Then Tasha chuckled. "Guess I'm staying, then." Javier raised his coffee cup in a mock salute. "To pissing off the right people." Kelly wiped at her eye quickly. "I'll draft a new investor packet. This time we're leading with the truth." Andre nodded. He sat down at last. They didn't even need to plan next steps right then. They just sat together for a while. That weekend, Andre drove down to the south side to see his mother. She was out in her tiny front yard, fussing with the rosebush she'd kept alive for 20 years. She wore old jeans and a Cubs cap and looked like she ruled the world. He parked, got out, and watched her a moment before she noticed him. "Andre." He smiled. "Hey, Ma." She dusted her gloves off. "You look tired. Cost of being a troublemaker." She snorted. "That's genetic." He hugged her. She patted his back. "You eating? Trying? You praying?" He hesitated. "Trying." She looked up at him with sharp, loving eyes. "Good enough. Come inside." He followed her in. They sat at the old kitchen table. He watched her make coffee. After a long silence, he spoke. "They tried to bury us, Ma. They're still trying." She handed him a mug. "But you didn't stay buried." He took a careful sip. She sat down opposite. "Why'd you do it?" she asked softly. He met her eyes. "Because you were worth more than the deal." She didn't smile. She nodded once. "That's all I ever wanted," she said quietly. They drank coffee in silence. Outside, Chicago traffic rolled past. Sirens wailed in the distance. Kids shouted somewhere on the block. Life went on. And so did they. Andre felt something settle in his chest. Resolve. Peace. Determination. He wasn't done fighting. But he finally knew exactly what he was fighting for. The next Monday, he opened Ella's Strategics all-staff meeting with a new mission statement: "We don't ask permission. We don't apologize for who we are. We work for people who respect us. And we fight for people who need us. That's the deal. You want in? Let's go." No one left. Every single person stayed. And they got to work. Dear friend, respect isn't a favor. It's a right. Let's remember, no one should have to choose between their success and their dignity. This story shines a light on the quiet ways prejudice hides behind polite words and boardroom deals. It's a reminder that standing up, even when it costs you, is how real change begins. If you believe every voice deserves respect, If you want more stories that challenge and inspire, give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. Let's build a community that values truth, justice, and the power of standing together. Your support helps us keep telling the stories that matter.